All right, let's just get right into it. If you've ever, and I mean ever, started a worm bin with all these amazing hopes, only to find it smelly or soggy or even worse, completely empty, look, you are definitely not alone. So today, we're going to take all that chaos and turn it into a simple, manageable system that honestly pretty much runs itself.
I mean, it is the stuff of composting nightmares, isn't it? You go to open the lid, expecting this beautiful, rich, earthy compost, and bam, you're hit with this sour, nasty smell. Or you find your little composting crew making a break for it, crawling all over the place. Those are the moments, right? The moments that make you just want to throw in the towel.
And you know what? That feeling is completely understandable. When your bin turns into this sludgy, smelly disaster, it feels like a total failure. It's confusing, it's super frustrating, and it can really feel like it's impossible to fix. But I'm telling you, I promise it's not. Okay, so here's the really cool part. None of this is random. Your worms aren't just causing chaos for the fun of it. All of their behavior, whether they're climbing up the walls or hiding out in one corner, it's a signal. They're trying to tell you something about what's going on inside that bin.
So let's completely reframe how we're thinking about this. You haven't failed. Not at all. It's more like a warning light just popped up on your car's dashboard. Your job isn't to be this perfect, flawless worm keeper from day one. No way. Your job is to become a detective, to learn how to read these signals and figure out how to respond.
All right, let's talk about the prime suspect in almost every single one of these cases: moisture. Honestly, getting the water balance right is the #1 most critical thing for a happy, healthy worm bin. It is the foundation for absolutely everything else.
And this is where it gets tricky, right? It's this weird balancing act. Worms absolutely need moisture. That's how they breathe, through their skin. But at the same time, they need oxygen, and that oxygen gets trapped in all those tiny little air pockets in their bedding. So what happens when a bin gets waterlogged? Well, all those air pockets disappear, the oxygen levels just plummet, and the whole system starts to fall apart.
This right here is probably the best analogy I have ever heard for this. Seriously, think of your worm bin like a wrung-out sponge. It's not supposed to be dry and crunchy, but it's also not supposed to be dripping and flooded. If you grab a handful of the bedding and give it a good squeeze, it should feel damp, but maybe only one single drop of water comes out. That is the sweet spot.
So, how does a bin even get too wet in the first place? Well, most of the time, it's from putting in too many wet food scraps. Think melons, cucumbers, without balancing them out. Or maybe you're not adding enough dry, carbon-rich bedding, like shredded cardboard, to soak up all that extra moisture. And, sometimes it's as simple as having a lid that's sealed on too tight, trapping all the humidity inside.
But here's the good news. The fix is actually pretty straightforward. First things first, just stop feeding them for a few days. Let the worms catch up. Second, mix in a really generous amount of dry bedding. Shredded cardboard is going to be your best friend here, trust me. Third, just gently fluff up the top layers a bit to get some air back in there. And last, just do a quick check to make sure your drainage holes aren't clogged up.
Okay, now let's tackle the big one, the issue that really, really panics people, the Great Escape. When you see worms climbing up the walls and all gathering on the lid, yeah, it's an alarming sight. But again, remember, they're not doing it to scare you. They're just telling you that something is wrong inside their home.
And it really does, doesn't it? It feels like a total betrayal. You've given them this nice home, you're feeding them, and now they're trying to pack their bags and leave. It is so easy to take that personally. But trust me on this, it's not about you. It's about their environment. Worms do not want to leave a comfy home.
So the whole game here is to figure out what the stressor is. Let's run down the list. Is the bin too wet? That is almost always the #1 cause. Is there some old, rotting food in there creating some really foul conditions? Maybe it's too hot or too cold, or maybe the bedding has gotten too acidic because of a lot of fruit scraps. Any of these things can trigger a full-on escape attempt.
And hey, here's a quick pro tip for you, especially if you have a brand new bin. It's totally common for worms to kind of explore for the first day or two. So to keep them from wandering off, just leave a light on over the bin for a couple of nights. They naturally hate light, so this encourages them to burrow down deep and get settled into their new home.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about fixing problems, right? But the real goal here, the end game, is to move away from constantly reacting and instead proactively create a stable, balanced ecosystem. This is when worm composting becomes genuinely easy, low maintenance, and super rewarding.
And what's the secret weapon to achieve this? It's almost ridiculously simple. Consistency. That's it. Instead of dumping a giant load of food scraps in there once a month, just feed smaller amounts more often, and always add a handful of dry bedding every single time you feed. Then just take a quick peek once a week. I'm telling you, this simple little routine will prevent 99% of all problems.
And this really just says it all, doesn't it? This is the transformation we're talking about. You go from a problem bin that smells sour and feels all soggy and compacted, with worms desperately trying to escape, to a balanced bin that smells just like a forest floor after a good rain. The bedding is soft and crumbly, and the worms, they're happy, they're content, just doing their thing right below the surface.
And please, remember this. This is a living system. It's going to have small fluctuations. That's normal. A corner might get a little wet sometimes, or a certain food scrap might sit there for a while. Your job is not to achieve absolute robotic perfection. It's just to provide a little gentle guidance, just nudging the system back into balance whenever it needs it.
And this, right here, is really the ultimate takeaway. True success in worm composting, it isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's kind of boring in the best possible way. It's when you open that lid and everything is calm. It smells earthy, and it's all working just the way it's supposed to. When your worms are so content that they do absolutely nothing dramatic at all, that's when you know you've done it. You have officially tamed the worm bin.